Radio. So I'm so excited to welcome this week's guest, the amazing, fabulous, chic, super accomplished author, fashion executive, fashion show producer, a woman of many hats and accomplishments, Toby Rubinstein.
How are you? Oh my God. I'm exhausted just listening to all the things that I do. I'm tired. I need to take a nap.
Like I need a glass of wine. Wait a
Yes.
minute.
hmm Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's great to be on your show, and I'm so happy that we met through Houghton and Holy.
Yes. So, of course, last week we had Aviad Ari Kerman on the show, who was one of the presenting designers at Houghton Holy Fashion Show. So, I'm so excited to just dive into your illustrious career and have some behind the scenes conversation about all your different productions. So you have been in the fashion industry for more than 40 years. So you've seen it all trends, who's hot, who's not. Um, so now you originally started out working with Victoria's Secret, correct, and J.C. Penney.
hmm Yes, yes. I'm laughing because my daughter chastises me to say, "Ma, why didn't you keep all that stuff?" Because I say, "Oh, I remember wearing that. Oh, I remember when that was a trend. Oh, I remember that dress." So, yes, I've been around long enough to be able to see what I used to wear be trendy again and again and again. Yes.
And it's funny you say that because I think about that so many times throughout my career. Things go out and okay, get rid of that. That's out. That's out. Then 6, 8 years later, it comes back. I'm like, I could be saving money right now. I threw all that out, or I donated all that. Damn, I wish I had those embroidered jeans. They're back.
Exactly. Exactly. I hear you, especially the designer pieces. I go, why didn't I save my first Donna Karan Power suit? Why didn't I save my Christian Lacroix suit with the special buttons? Why didn't I save that Patrick Kelly dress with the amazing, also again, buttons on them? I mean, I've had, Rifkat Asbeck and my first Chanel suit. I didn't save anything. I'm sorry.
Ah,
I apologize to my daughter here. I'm sorry. I did save some stuff, but not everything. But yes, I started my career in corporate at a manufacturer that did exclusive collections for Victoria's Secret and for J.C. Penney, and that was my first taste of, at the time, corporate America. And we're dating all the way back and telling you that this is when Victoria's Secret was a very, very, very important catalog, and
right.
the stores were secondary. And it was a matter of the catalog and which this was the beginning of the supermodel, which supermodel was going to be the people that were going to wear your collection, or if you had the cover. And it was a very, very interesting way to begin. It was very exciting at the time. It was very exciting to travel to Europe to go and look at collections, and then FedEx them back to the showroom to make sure that they were prepared for Victoria's Secret meetings, to show them new trends. And and it was the beginning of spandex and lycra, and it
The
was the beginning
miracle
of the
bra.
legging and the shorter legging, and the little crop legging and the crop mini skirt. I mean, it was just all it was the beginning of that exciting time of when athletic wear was introduced into your regular wardrobe, back then. The
And I
beginning,
think
the origins of leggings.
Yes, and I think it also, we were talking before we came up mentioning Madonna. I feel there's a real overlap here because Victoria's Secret and Madonna and the stars of the time, Janet Jackson, Selena, Paula Abdul, back then, that was the beginning of what I call, underwear worn as outerwear,
Yes.
the making lingerie as part of your everyday fashion,
Of
not
course.
just in the
Yes.
bedroom.
Hmm.
And these were the stars that really pioneered that. But Victoria's Secret was really at the forefront
Yes.
of transitioning lingerie and loungewear
Yes.
as mainstay fashion.
Yes. Agreed. Absolutely agree. Yes, and Madonna and I are the same age, so you're going, you're in the same bracket. Yes, absolutely. Mm-hmm. A hundred
Mhm.
percent. Yes. So
And then,
that was the beginning of the fashion. Well, that was the first entry into the corporate world of fashion.
mhm, mhm. And corporate fashion is a whole different animal than fashion when you're an independent fashion designer. So there's
Correct.
much more hands that go into the decisions, right?
Yes. You know what I think that my most powerful lesson about being in that corporate world at the time at Victoria's Secret, and again, being, working with a manufacturer who did that with J.C. Penney, which was, equally the same, when it came to corporate. It's that, you learn what the masses want and the price point that they want, and you have to hit it,
Mhm.
and make sure that it gets that way as much as possible. And that's the priority. The priority is, the design, how wearable it is, and how it translates to the mass market at the correct price. Whereas with, an independent fashion designer, it's probably more about creativity, and then the price gets it, then the price gets, taken into account. It's a different way of looking at things.
Mhm.
It's like more individual style as opposed to a mass market style, and that's
Right.
where you have to learn, and you have to learn more things about, making sure. I mean, there was a terminology which I'm sure no longer existed. It's called pagination when it comes to catalog, which means that, you take a two-page spread and you see that, how do you maximize your fabric, that it goes into 10 different styles, and so that you make sure that you get the best price for the x amount of yards that you're pre-ordering. And then of course you have to get the best prices at the time everyone was then going to overseas, as opposed to making
Right.
it in the United States. So everything has to be taken into account. Whereas, 5 cents is monumental at that
Mhm.
particular level, whereas 5 cents is, doesn't even come into play when you're doing something custom, or something, on the level that has more originality to it.
Yes. And I think when you're talking about corporate fashion versus an independent designer, or even if you're, say, talking about the big design houses who now have multiple branches, so you could kind of say they're almost both.
Yes.
Because they have their couture clients, but then they're also in all the luxury malls around. So it was the corporate fashion, it's finding the balance between making it at a price that will sell for the quality,
Yes.
but then also the company still having the profit margin that they
Yes.
need for their overhead. And but with an independent designer, they'll set their own price, but it's also, well, is it in the customer's budget? You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
right? And what the market will bear, what their name bears.
Yes.
You know, the excuse me, the reputation of their work, right, can dictate the price that they sell. And of course, they want to make a profit, but they don't have as much overhead until they really grow to that level to worry about. So they might make it much more expensive because, they want to keep more of the profit and they're paying all their own production bills
Oh yeah.
themselves,
Hey,
you know?
it costs a lot of money to be a designer.
Mhm.
and then to build everything, absolutely. And that hasn't changed over time. It might have changed in the way people define a designer. It might
Mhm.
be today it has less to do with creativity and more to do with marketing.
Right.
Because some designers right now are just really, really good merchandisers, not necessarily designers. But that's the way of the world right now, where things
Mhm.
have to be immediate as opposed to waiting for a collection. There's a world of a difference between those two. I was trained
Mhm.
in waiting for a collection, and now I'm adjusting to the world of immediate
Yeah.
gratification. Hmm.
And I think the way that we market fashion has changed too. Like you said, it used to be commercials and catalogs. Like you would be excited waiting for the new catalog to flip through.
Yes.
And these companies did a ton of business through mail, and this was before internet even existed. So they did a lot of their advertising in print ads and commercials and billboards. But now with the advent of social media, so much has changed
Yeah.
where, they advertise through social media ads or partnering with influencers
Right.
or, partnerships with other celebrities.
Yeah.
So, the way we get it out there has really changed a lot.
100%. I totally agree. 100%. And I always said that the mark of a great leader is to know when they no longer know.
Mhm.
And that, and then find, and then learn from other people that can teach you, because you can't sit in the same place and think that you're going to get it the entire time, especially fashion or anything in the creative process. You can't. You have to you have to sit back and go, okay, I no longer know, so let me educate myself through people that know better than me. And I think that also takes a tremendous strength to go, okay, this doesn't work anymore. I can't stand on these principles anymore. I can't do business this way anymore because it no
Mhm.
longer is relatable. So that's another phase that you have to go through. I think in any part of your life, actually.
Mhm. And then technology also affects the industry as well. I mean, all industries, but the actual technology that we make fashion from has just so evolved over the years, and so much of it is digital and all kinds of different machines and programming. Unless you're talking about the real couture designers, so many designers don't even have to really cut anymore. You can, if you wanted to, if you had the money for the resources, you can just program machines that'll do it all. It's really amazing. Like if you
Yeah,
look
it is.
into it.
It is amazing because I've seen the evolution of an experienced pattern maker to be taken over by a robot and a computer. I
Mhm.
totally understand that. I think that's part of the process of any industry is what has happened with the revolution of the internet and everything evolving around social media has changed every business,
Mhm.
especially anything creative.
Yeah. But I think there is also finding the balance because you just can't replace an actual human being. I mean, obviously you can, but so far as the quality, the love that comes through in the garment, it's the detail and the care. You can't replace what a human hand and creative mind actually touching and constructing that stitch and sewing that bead on and making sure the facets are of quality on the garment. A machine can't do that.
True, true, true.
So now you also created a urban menswear line. It
Yes.
was really interesting in 2001 called Cheddar. So, can you tell us what was, your inspiration moving into the menswear realm and your whole process with that?
Well, at the time, Urban wear was really very hot category with the formation
Hmm.
of Fat Farm and
Right.
Rockaware and South Pole, and all those really influential brands. I had
Hmm.
gotten together with two other people within the industry that I had met over a project for Gotex, which is a swimwear company. We had met over a project that we were doing, and we collectively came up with this idea. Well, okay, this particular um, type of clothing that is very important right now, which is now spilling into an entire lifestyle, including, of course, the music, and starting from the music, going all the way to an entire lifestyle of dress for men, women, and children.
Hmm.
Why is it sold only at a particular level of business, which is just
Right.
sold up until mid tier, with mid tier meaning department stores? Why isn't this going to mass market? Of course, we were three women going into an entirely male dominated industry, which was quite a challenge. But we were also taking on the industry and presenting it in a way that why can't it be affordable? Why can't it go
Mm.
to a Kmart or a Walmart or a JC
Right.
Penney? And we had struck a deal with Kmart to do an exclusive for them, to present this at their price level. And it took a long time, a lot of guts. And as I look back on a documentary for Hip Hop Nation that had a segment about Cheddar, that I talked about, we have scars from all the glass ceilings we had to break through in order to get that done. It was probably my great, if I thought that I learned stuff in Victoria's Secret, I learned. I got my double MBA when it came to
Mm.
doing this project. This was a whole other level of learning corporate America, because this was really understanding not just a particular one segment of a catalog or a page or so on and so forth. This was understanding the entire realm of corporate, of working with the mass market.
Mm.
Kmart at the time, was going through a revolving amount of CEOs and a Martha Stewart scandal, and
Mhm.
it was quite challenging. And it was also a big test for us to take on a totally male dominated industry, and that double burden of doing something new and then doing it new as women was amazing, and we accomplished it, and that was quite a feat, even though in the end it didn't really pan out to be as successful as as we thought it was going to be, because there's just so many challenges you could be faced, and do well in it. But what happened was is that we became part of a culture, and we really had tremendous street credibility, and within the media, we really did quite an accomplishment as far as establishing a brand that was just, I can't I words can't even tell you the challenge, the obstacles that were put in front of us that we
Mm.
overcame, especially that we were one, women; two, women within the fashion industry and not in the music industry; and
Mm.
three, we were three different cultures. I was, obviously a white Jewish woman. My other partner was the fabulous African American woman who was a designer. Another one was a Latino woman, and we were very good friends, and we did this together. So we had all the ingredients to go up against all what was going on at the time. And I know that, compared to what, the environment that's out there now, it seems, oh yeah, what's the big deal? But it was such a big deal.
It was. I remember that time in fashion,
Yeah,
and it really was. It was male dominated.
yeah,
It was at the time when music and fashion was starting to co-brand. You had Nelly with like his apple bottom
That's right.
jeans. You had, and it was when entertainers were first discovering, hey, I can do more than just sing and release a CD. I
Right.
can create a business through my persona.
That's
So
right.
really, these artists were groundbreakers because now everybody has a fragrance, a clothing line,
Yes.
other things. It's normal. It's expected. Once you get beyond a certain point, your team, if they're worth anything, will say, okay, so now how are we going to take your build persona and leverage it into business? But
Yes.
in the late 80s and early 90s, early 2000s, that wasn't the case. So, you had artists like, Jennifer Lopez at that time, Russell Simmons, of course, Baby Fat with
That's right.
Kimora
Menswear.
Lee.
Yeah, he was. These were the people that I was up against. I was up against a
Yeah,
Russell Simmons. I was up against a P Diddy
yeah.
at the time, Sean John. Yes, absolutely. These were the people that we were up
And
against.
it's hard because, like, with those two in particular, Russell Simmons and P. Diddy, they also had successful music
Yes.
producing careers, so
Mhm.
they could pull from all the artists on their rosters and plant them at the shows, have them wear the products and be brand ambassadors before
Yes.
that was a term.
Yes. So
So,
I'm quite proud now that you mentioned all the environment at the time. I'm quite proud that we accomplished what we did. I mean, we had brand ambassadors also. We had the actors from The Wire at the time, which was a very hot
awesome.
the beginning of The Wire on HBO.
Yeah,
And
I had Nakia Dillard's been a guest on my show. He was
right.
on The Wire.
So we followed that formula,
Mhm.
but we've obviously followed that formula with a slight handicap over everybody else, and the fact that we got that deal and became
Mhm.
so press worthy from it because it exploded after that because of what we accomplished. I'm really proud of that project, but it's just it follows my personality that I really like to take on big challenges and I like to find a void in the market and create something as opposed to following any kind of a trend.
And I think it's just awesome to bring three women together
Yeah.
as bosses
Yes.
from different backgrounds. To me, I look at it as it was a success
Thank you.
because,
So do I.
you,
In
yeah,
retrospect, it was. Yes.
if you get a brand off the ground, and if you get it into stores, and if you get it to the point where there's production, payrolls in place, contracts are made, that's a success.
Thank you. Then it was a success for sure. And to get it, with a major retailer like that, to be taken that
Huge
seriously
feat.
was tremendous. Yes, it was. It absolutely was.
So now in 2009, you also had a reality show
I did.
called The House of Faith and Fashion that was on NBC. And you also, through that, got to interview a lot of luminaries and amazing people. So tell us how you evolved into reality TV and just what that whole experience was like.
Well, the House of Faith and Fashion, which we'll talk later about the
Yeah.
book. The House of Faith and Fashion was born, I should say, built in 2009 out of the need for me to blend both of my lives, being in the fashion industry, and at the time I was married to a rabbi. And I wanted to fuse together both of my loves, and make them work. And really, what the bottom line was, I wanted to show people that these two subjects were not opposed to one another; they were actually really
Mhm.
related. But of course, I wanted to do it in an interesting way. And I thought that interviewing major fashion personalities and talk to them about their faith as opposed to what's your collection look like and what can you do for me and how can you dress me. I wanted to
Mhm.
actually talk to their insides, their soul, to connect to their person, as opposed to just their talent and how it appeals to me at the moment. And Unfortunately, my marriage dissolved, and it was a very public affair, in which didn't go so well. But I decided that I was going to pursue my idea anyway, because
Hmm.
I knew it was a great idea and an important idea, and I was very, very
And
passionate,
it was a niche that
and I
nobody else
pursued.
had explored before, too.
No, it has never been explored before. I mean, obviously, each side has been explored extensively, independent of each other, but never
Hmm.
never collected and fused together so that they are meshed together as one. I found myself in a very unique position of being qualified on both parts, equally qualified on both parts, to say, okay, I guess if I'm the one that's gonna put it together, then I'm gonna put it together. And I then went ahead and became a rabbi myself. I became ordained and said, I don't really need a man to give me that title. I'm just gonna get the
That's
title
right.
myself. That's it. And in 2009, I was approached by NBC Nonstop to take this what then was a successful a lecture series, and
Hmm.
put it into a show. And we did 8 episodes, and I got to interview. I mean, I think about it now, Patricia Fields. We had the best conversation about faith,
Mm.
and she taught me a very interesting lesson, because she said, I asked her a question, do it's unbelievable how fabulous you are. I mean, like, do you realize how fabulous you are? And she said to me, I don't think like that. If I would think about how fabulous I am all the time, I would never get anything done. I just do it. I mean, this is not in my radar. I do the best that I can. I'm steeped in my faith and in the different type of faiths that she practices. And she has such a sense of humility. For me to
Mm.
have been able to tap into that, for somebody like Patricia Fields, who's now probably bigger than ever, she
Oh,
spun
yeah.
the city into Emily in Paris. I mean, she's nonstop. I mean, I see that she's coming
Patricia
out with a
Fields
book herself.
arguably has to be one of the most successful film fashion
Yes,
stylists of
yes.
all time.
For me to have a conversation with her about faith was tremendous, absolutely tremendous. And again, this was a project where um, it was another challenge, because I had to go up against screaming reality shows where people don't get along, where
Right.
people killing, people arguing and insulting each other,
Cheating on
having,
each other, throwing drinks at each
that was
other.
the norm. It was the beginning of the Housewives and all the franchise, and how popular they become. And this was not understood, because this was too cerebral. It was too
Mm.
calm. I mean, the producers would say, can't you argue with one of your interviews, and cause some sort of
Some
rift between the two
drama.
of you, drama. I'm like, no. I mean, I'm
God
sorry.
forbid our
That's
minds
not what. That's
entertain
not
us.
the. That's not what I'm. That's not the game that I want to play. This is not the House of Faith and Fashion. The House of Faith and Fashion is, I'm going to sit down with a Nole Marin, who was at the time a judge on America's Next Top Model,
Mhm.
and sit and talk to him about his idea of what modesty means. What does modesty mean? How do you teach those values, and be a judge on America's Next Top Model? Because I knew that he was the son of a preacher. So I said,
Mm.
let's talk about that. But that wasn't a subject in which was accepted by the executives at the time, when you know reality show is much more explosive than that.
Yes. And I always say, and I mean, I actually very much relate to you with my show and the principles of my show and brand and who I am. I said from the beginning, look, there's plenty of all that kind of stuff out there that you
Right,
referenced. Not everybody wants that.
right.
There's a place out there for people who want to do things that are fun and entertaining, but have a moral compass and something of substance. So
Yeah.
not everybody wants the frivolous stuff. I mean, not to say everything we talk about is super serious every time,
No, no.
but yeah, but there are people out there who want their minds stimulated and want to listen to conversations that marry the things that are important to them and want to learn from other people and be enriched.
Right.
So, I say the people who are going to find you will find you. So much to what you said, you have to stay true to your moral compass, your gifts, and if people don't get it, well, those aren't the people who are supposed to come along with you on your journey.
Correct. Absolutely. 100%. 100%. I don't necessarily know if it come. I mean, I don't want to put it into a moral issue because I'm not passing
Yeah,
judgment
I'm
on
right.
anybody. I'm just saying that it's. I want to stick to who it is that I am, the
Yeah.
mission that I want to accomplish, and I
Well,
know that
to
it
me,
doesn't
that
obviously doesn't fit into the norm, which is why I was
right.
given that, because I don't fit into the norm. I recognize that, I embrace that, and I'm gonna, I'm sticking to my path.
Well, to me, that is morals. And that's character, right?
Okay.
Being yourself, conscious that you want to create something of worth and quality. That's incorporating morals. And as we transition to the next segment of conversation, I feel part of morals is your faith,
Yes.
being in touch with your creator, and all of our gifts come through our creator. We may all have different beliefs of who that creator is, and the teachings that go along with it. But I feel faith, finding your voice as a human being, your creative gifts, deciding how you're going to best use those to serve purpose, all comes from relation with higher power.
Yes. Agreed.
So now you were referencing modest fashion a few moments ago. So in traditional Jewish Orthodox faith and teachings, women are supposed to wear high collars and not wear pants and wear, a longer sleeve. But now today, it's really so exciting and interesting to see with both the Muslim faith and the Greek and I'm sorry, the Jewish Orthodox faith, which have some similarities in teaching about how you should dress to be in line with spirituality. There's a new wave of fashionistas out there who are showing that modesty doesn't have to be exclusive of high fashion.
Okay. Is there
And
a
and
is there the question in there?
yes,
I'll
so
answer.
yes, so my question is, within your own personal fashion, and the designers that you see out there, what are some of the trends that you're seeing in modest fashion?
Okay, so I'm going to answer that question by just rewinding a little bit,
Sure.
and saying that at the current moment, where I'm at is that I took all of that energy of and research and knowledge of what of fusing the two subjects of faith and fashion. And I took the House of Faith and Fashion, and instead of having the TV show, I
Mhm.
have the book.
Yes.
I have the book, The House of Faith and Fashion, What My Wardrobe Taught Me About God, and I incorporated everything into that book.
Mhm.
That book does address, um, as part of exploring faith and fashion, the idea of modesty and the rules of dress within the religions. Within Judaism, the rules are when you say it's high collared, they have to, cover the collarbone. The sleeves have to be up to the elbow, and the dress has to the hem of the dress has to come to the knee or cover the knee. I mean, it's very fluid because I grew up, and the rules were a little bit different than they are
Okay.
now. I think rules have become customs, customs have become rules.
Mm,
I believe that, I'm sure that men had a lot to do with it. I find that the less that they can control themselves, the more they want to control how you dress. And
yes.
somehow things bled into one another. So, that's a whole other discussion
Yeah, yeah,
as to
yeah.
what, the rules of modesty are. What they really are, um, to put it in just one sentence, is to learn that a woman should respect her outer beauty as well as her inner beauty. And the respect for her outer beauty comes with covering up what shouldn't be available to the outside world. And I use the example of a trip that I took to Cairo in 1990, and I went to the museum. And at the time, it wasn't renovated, and it didn't have the security systems that we are accustomed to in a normal museum. And I got to try on Cleopatra's jewelry, and
Wow. Oh my
although it was very
God.
exciting, um, after a while, I said, I'm not supposed to be trying on Cleopatra's jewelry. I'm supposed to be admiring it from
Mm.
afar. I'm supposed to be admiring it under a case, under security, under infrared lights, because it's too precious for me to have it, for me to touch. And I, that's the way I view modesty. um, there are things that, even though I think it's beautiful, and I might think I have a perfect body, and I look great in in a string bikini, I'm not supposed to have that available for somebody else to see. It's not, it's but it doesn't make me any less beautiful. And that to me is modesty. And I think that within the other religions, it's also a matter of respecting yourself and how much you think you have to reveal yourself in order to get the attention that you think that you deserve, when you really deserve all the attention in the world for just being you. And I think that a lot of muddy waters have happened in the process of modesty, in the whole idea of modesty. But what happens now, which is so interesting, is that there are so many modest influencers out there that are proud of covering up, and they don't feel ashamed or embarrassed about the fact that someone say, "Oh my God, you're so oppressed because you have to cover up," and that's so not true. I think just the opposite. You must feel so oppressed if you feel that you have to be so revealing. It's a
Mm.
way of looking at things, and it's also a respect. It's a modesty from within that has to come to the surface. It's both. In Judaism, we have a wonderful phrase that says that our modesty is from within, that we are daughters of the king, and daughters of the king hide their modesty. But the other half of the sentence is that she's inlaid with beautiful gold garments. So there is that duality within that sentence. So the House of Faith and Fashion just combines these things and says, it's okay for you to wear, your hot pink Valentino dress, but, respect yourself in the process of it. And if you have to wear it a certain length, or you have to adapt because you want to feel more covered up, doesn't mean you can't wear it.
Oh, now we have some comments on the feed. Barbara's asking, how did the Cleopatra jewelry look in person?
Oh, the Cleopatra jewelry was just not normal. And then there was a scepter. It was just not, no, it was crazy, but it wasn't. I felt really that it wasn't my place to be
Like
wearing.
you were crossing
Yes,
boundaries.
yeah, I was
That
crossing
it
a
was sacred.
boundary. Exactly. I was crossing a sacred boundary that I could admire it in a case and say, oh my God, ooh, ah, but I'm not supposed to be wearing it. I'm not supposed to be, I'm not supposed to be trying it on like it's so common.
Hmm.
And really, eh, modesty is royalty, and revealing yourself is common. That's how I look at it.
Hmm. It's cherishing who you are
Yes.
and your value.
Yes, and your value. But right, when you're living in a world that's completely twisted around and that's completely opposite, it's very hard to stand that ground. But
Yeah.
I admire all these modest influencers within all the religions, and there's a lot of them, that take just the opposite and say, no, 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 I don't feel persecuted, I don't feel devalued because I'm modest. Look at how I'm taking that fashion,
They feel
making it
empowered.
work for me. Yeah. Yes.
And now, you started writing your book, at a very challenging time in your life.
Yeah.
At the time, you were battling stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
um and praise God that you're here and healthy and with us. But that's not the time that most people say, hey, I'm going to write a book. So what was the moment where you decided that this was the time to write a book, and what the format was going to be?
Well, that aha moment, um was probably, I mean, at the time, where I thought that I'm just running out of time, Toby. I mean, you're running
Mm,
out of time to fulfill the mission that God gave you. And the best way to do it, I mean, you tried it with television, and it was ahead of its time. And the best way of keep having a legacy is write a book. Because I mean, for me, in the Jewish religion, we're the people of the book, and I'm not comparing myself to the Bible in any way, shape, or form. But there's a time, especially on the Sabbath, that all electronic devices are turned off, and you're disconnected from the outside world, and you usually spend that time reading. And I said, okay, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to put all my thoughts and all my knowledge, both in the fashion world and in within the Torah, Judaism, and put together a collection of essays that'll keep you enthralled, by having conversations with somebody like Patricia Field, but then putting it together with Torah, having an essay about the Metropolitan Museum and the Met Ball, and putting it together with Judaic thought, having somebody like Fern Malice and Iris Apfel, um, comment on your book, but then having all these really top Jewish leaders also commenting on my book. So I there was my way of putting my world together within the pages of this book. And thank God that I survived enough to be able to sit here and have a conversation with you. And I really think with all my heart and all my soul that the reason why I went through this, it was like a wake up call, and said, okay, Toby, you got to figure out a different way to get my message out.
mhm.
Because I really believe that this is my mission, that I need to spread, that you need to understand that, like I say, that God is the first couturier. This is something that we discussed at the panel discussion at Houghton Holy. And I want to, again, if I'm the only one that's going to be the one that's going to say, okay, let's fuse these two together, and they're not independent of each other, then, and so be it. It's my calling. And so I
Mhm.
think that I'm here because it really is my calling. And now I'm just, the book has been a tremendous success. And then, now we've had our first, entry into New York Fashion Week with an event that was on par with putting it on the CFDA calendar, to making sure that you understood that there is no compromising when you want to have a relationship with God. You just have
Mhm.
to it can be provided for you. You can feel good about yourself. You can feel beautiful, fashionable, and keep your religious values.
And you can be strong in faith and as an entrepreneur and creator. And really, I just see that they seamlessly tie hand in hand.
Yes.
Because I personally believe that our gifts all come from Creator. And
Yes.
when you are walking in the path of your gifts and spreading your gifts with other people, you are in your ordained purpose.
Yes.
And that's when you will meet more people that you're supposed to spread your light to. And that's how you stay closer to Creator and your purpose. And I feel like when you actually are in your creative state, and that's flowing, that's like the magic moment when separate from prayer and meditation, but everything channels from higher power. So when you're creating, that really is, and you have your channels open, that's when you're hearing your messages from God and having your internal spiritual conversations.
Yes, a hundred percent. And and you have to ignore all the other sounds that are around you that tell you that it's not possible, it's not true, or you can't be, or any of those things, because they'll be out there. And you just have to have the strength enough to say, this is my purpose and I'm sticking to it. It's my mission, it's my God-given purpose. And if my God-given purpose was to create the House of Faith and Fashion, now thankfully expanded to include other religions,
Mhm.
then because really we need to honor God in the creative process. And if it's
Right.
the fashion industry, it's the fashion industry.
Yes, and so often our greatest inspirations and finding ways to overcome obstacles come on the other side of prayer. You know, a- asking God to remove that barrier, asking God to put you in the room with people that are like you that can help you. Asking God, look, show me what way I'm supposed to go. How
Right.
can I best use my gifts? What am I supposed to do? Now it might not come in 30 seconds,
No.
but right.
No. Usually takes sometimes it takes a lifetime, and some people never tap into it in their entire lifetime. So no, that's a whole other, um that's a stream of consciousness. Whatever you want to tap into, it's there. And it will be revealed to you, whether it's revealed to you
Mhm.
through something that's a terrible thing that happens to you. And it's not, things are always going to happen. It's what you do with the things that happen.
Yes. And
So that would be the answer. That's the very long answer to what you just proposed to me, what you just
yeah.
said to me. I mean, yes, I was given this deck of cards, and it was very, very devastating, and was not, wasn't the diagnosis that you ever want to hear. But then I said, okay, so what do I do with this? I mean, I could just sit around and wallow and get upset, or I can make a purpose out of it. And actually, the purpose was the way through. That's how I
Mhm.
got through it. I mean, even I look at, yeah, here's the book. Okay, so this is
And the
the
cover
cover.
is fabulous.
The cover is fabulous. For instance, the cover is a perfect story, because this happens to be Elizabeth Sutton. Elizabeth Sutton is a great artist and a very, very hot brand. And she happens to be a very close friend of mine. This cover was shot, while I was in a long session of chemotherapy at Mount Sinai Hospital, hooked up to all kinds of IVs, um, during COVID, when no one could spend any
Wow.
time with you, with my doctor behind me on my phone, while she was shooting this cover in Miami, while I was in New York with a fashion photographer that came in from Tampa. And everybody participated in order to get this cover right, because I'm a very visual person. I had to see the cover, and then right into the cover. And it was so
Toby, that
important.
is so
Yeah,
inspiring.
and my doctor said, "What are you
I
doing?"
never, I'm so glad you're sharing this story.
Yeah,
Looking at the cover, I would have never envisioned that
yes, and
was
and
the
my doctor
reality.
was going, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm shooting the cover of my book." She's like, you have 6 hours of chemo. I mean, it was not a, chemotherapy is not a pleasant experience at all, let alone during
Mhm.
COVID when you're by yourself and nobody, none of your family members could be with you and you're masked up and hooked up, and it's just not a pleasant thing. But my mind was like, I was on the phone looking at this cover, the music was going, she had the same, my wig person was there to put the wig on her so she should look like me. I was like, she knew how I was going to dress. She knew my obsession with all the, with patterns. She knew. And the fact is that's a perfect example of yeah, I had to go through the process in order to get to the other side.
Mm. And now look at all the amazing things on the other
Yes,
side. You're continuing to produce and do and and I'm sure you learned a lot through that whole process as well.
I did learn. I learned a lot. I learned how important prayer is. I learned how important missions are and purposes in life, and I learned about cherishing every single day, because you never know when your time is up. And then saying, okay, so Toby, what did you do with your life? What did you do?
Mm.
So I feel that with my mission with the House of Faith and Fashion, now I'm writing the next book, The House of Faith and
Oh,
Fashion 2, which is called Hote and Holy. Um, and I feel that, I feel good about this, that if this is my contribution and this is what I leave behind, I feel that I've done the right thing.
and inspiring so many people along the way.
Thank you. Yes, I hope so. And I'm also learning. I'm learning about other religions. I'm learning about other cultures. I'm also, you have to learn every day. That's another job. You can't. Yep, you must learn. So
Right?
I'm always
I think
open to continuing that.
I think that, the fashion industry does have on surface, it's more shallow parts. My dad used to say vapid, but there's also a lot of substance in the
Yes.
fashion industry and the art world. And and it's not just a surface, for many people, fashion is their outlet. It's how they find their self-esteem. It's how they have found themselves, reinvention, escaping struggling circumstances, sometimes toxic home lives.
Hmm.
Fashion is also a window to other people finding their peace and their light. And I definitely I say that you were a part of that light. I was just so moved by everything we shared today.
Thank
Um,
you.
Next, I'm so excited to hear that you're writing a second book.
I'll be back
So,
on. I'm going to come back on with
yes,
number
of
two.
course,
Yes.
of course. So now, do you have any other shows or other ventures that you're working on? I know you're always doing a million things.
The next thing that I'm doing is in Miami, at St. Thomas University, which is the only faith-based fashion school. And
Wow.
we are going to be having it's a Catholic university, which is interesting, right? And we're having the House of Faith and Fashion clinic there with a fashion show. So I'll be teaching, and I'm having a dialogue with the dean of that department, which should be quite interesting. After that, we're working on bringing the whole concept of Houghton Holy, the show that we did in the panel discussion, to the United Arab Emirates. So anyone out there that
Wow.
wants to like help me do this, I got to do this. This is my next thing. I have to bring this because I really do think that it's a language of that all religions understand, and I think that it through fashion we can find peace, we can find respect, and we can find creativity within one another, and I think that's very
And
important.
dialogue.
Yeah, and dialogue, and I think that there's nothing there's nothing vapid about creativity. That's really it. God was the first creator.
Yes, and creativity also often leads to collaboration,
Yes.
right? And it's through collaboration, teamwork. So
Yes.
people who might not normally even cross paths, you come together on a project, and then at the other side of it, you understand each other more. And
A hundred percent.
that's really where the path to peace, and not just talk about your inner peace, but like peace in this world.
Yes,
That's
absolutely.
the first step is being able to get into a room, find something a commonality that you can talk about and
Right.
understand the other person's perspective. From that, you understand you're on the path to understanding each other's needs and empathy and then problem solving.
Exactly.
So, well, any project you have that I can lend any support and help to, you know, I'm there. I'm
Thank you.
and I'm just so proud of you,
Thank you.
and,
Thank you. I
and just
appreciate it.
all the ground that you're breaking and will continue to break. You open the door up for women like myself, and not just in fashion, but just anybody who has a dream and has obstacles and people getting in their ear that you're not good enough or you can't.
You
You know,
can.
women like yourself are who we turn to have that gusto, like, yes, I can.
Yes, you can. Do it.
And so now, Toby, where can our listeners and viewers find you on social media and keep up to date with buy your book, your
Well,
projects, and everything?
you can buy the book The House of Faith and Fashion: What My Wardrobe Taught Me About God on Amazon and Kindle. You could also get it on my website www.thehouseoffaithandfashion.com. You could find me on Instagram at Tobi Rubinstein. You can find me on Facebook at Tobi Rubinstein. I don't do Twitter. It's too many social platforms. I can only do two at a time. I don't do TikTok. Um, and that's where the places you could find me.
Awesome. Well, you can find me on Instagram at TikTok at the Laura Mazurk. Like and follow the Style and Empowerment Chat with Laura Friends Facebook page. I wish you continued success in your
Thank you,
mission and
Laura.
your
You too.
journey. And thank you so much
And
for
happy and
sharing.
healthy New Year to you.
Yes,
And everybody out
happy.
there that celebrates, happy and healthy New Year to you. Be well.
Yes.
Bye bye.
Bye.